So recently, we've been talking about fundamentals and reevaluating them. We looked at attacks and footwork. Today, let's take a look at reevaluating our fundamental defenses. So, Aufstreichen hanger, Aufstreichen short edge, Aufstreichen long edge, Durchstreichen, Abnehmen, and Krumphau. Today. Jeff Tsai, Forte Swordplay. So past few weeks, we've been looking at, or re-looking at the fundamentals. We've really kind of looked again at the cuts and the attacks, as well as the footwork that you can use to pair with all of that. So with that hopefully under our belt, the flip side is, what is the opponent doing? This is one of the things that's tricky about looking at the sources sometimes. There's plenty to describe already with one person doing their techniques, and a lot of the time the sources are kind of silent about what the defender happens to be doing, other than to say, oh, if he parries or whatever. So because of that, over the past 20 years, we have steadily built up a series of models of, okay, these are possible things for defense. And I think in the early days, people started with the really simple stuff in terms of like these static guard positions like plow and ox that work okay in terms of just like holding it there as a defensive position. But as we look at more and more of the actual data, the actual written down documentation, I think there's more and more evidence that we are looking at a lot of other dynamic parries that are out there. And so we want to learn how to actually incorporate that stuff as part of our fundamentals. They are more complex, right? You actually have to, just like with the cuts, you have to be able to coordinate your defenses with your footwork. And that just takes time. It's like trying to learn how to do dance. So I think it's a bit much to expect people to really just be able to do this right off the cuff when they're starting to learn this entire art. So what we'll do today is actually kind of review a number of these defenses that we have done plenty of other videos for and kind of gone into detail. But this video is intended to actually put all this stuff together and to sort of close things out with a drill that we have done before, again on video. If you want to go look at it for reference for like a simpler version of it, it's a Frequens Motus drill. We called it Zorn Krump, Zorn Aufstreichen. So it's one of the Frequens Motus drills where we're alternating the role between attacker and defender. And the secret sauce on this one is going to be giving the person who is practicing the opportunity to really swap out any number of these different fundamental defenses. So as a starting point, let's just quickly review the mechanics of the series of dynamic defenses that we kind of like showed at the very beginning before the title card, right? So we're going to actually start with parries where you are able to get underneath the opponent's blade, right? And so that's sort of a class of parries, dynamic parries, which I think is generally described as streichen, or stroking upward, sweeping upward, Aufstreichen. And so it fundamentally follows this kind of mechanic, right? And then when you come up, you have three options, flavors, right? So there's a version where you're doing a hanger. You hang thumb underneath, flat under on top. That's where you catch it, let that slide off. Basically, same idea as a moulinet. You're basically doing a moulinet, right? If I did it one-handed, this would be a moulinet, okay? So if we want to do a version where it's not hands high, point low, but in fact, hands low, point high, this becomes the sort of so-called Aufstreichen. Okay, so coming up with the short edge, and then also up with the long edge is a little bit more twisted. It's shorter distance, so I don't have as much range when I do this. My distance is a little shorter, but I have this here as better protection. So it's a little bit of a trade-off. So those are the three flavors what I'm trying to get beneath someone's blade. And then if for whatever reason I can get on top of their blade, so instead of going underneath, I go on top. This is the Durchstreichen idea. And then if I'm not always coming down here, but I'm actually going to stay on the upper part of the X, above long point, right? So from here, from here, I can actually, again, on top of the blade, do this. Here's our Abnehmen, taking off pattern. And then on top of that, I can also do Krumphau, where again, I'm on top of the person's blade, okay? So again, we've talked about those different patterns in different videos. I would go back to those other videos if you need the sort of specific detailed breakdown. But now, let's do a Frequens Motus drill and show how to actually walk through every one of those variations and then add complexity on top of that so you can actually practice. So if I have Andre come forward here, before we actually do it, so the explanation, again, we're going to alternate roles. So he's going to throw a attack, and just for simplicity right now, we're going to do a Zorn. So he's going to do a Zornhau, Wrath Cut. So he's going to do Wrath Cut, and I'm going to parry, and then I'm going to throw a Zornhau, and he's going to parry. And if you have to start somewhere with students, or if you're just starting out yourself, I would stick with the hanger, which I think is probably one of the easiest, simplest versions of these guards to work with, right? So let me put on this mask. Okay, so we're going to start with an attack, parry, hanger, 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 hanger. Okay, great. So we can just do that. And in fact, we're going to do a little bit more. And actually, I'm going to move Andre around a little bit. Again, we're going to consider me the student. He's actually coaching me. And you can do this either way, whether you either have the coach kind of guide where the student goes, or if the student is good at exploring things, I'm going to go ahead and sort of move him around so that I can get experience, like just basically moving as I'm doing this defense. Okay, so here we go. Okay, all right. So really basic movement, side, side. And of course we can drive him backward. He can drive me forward. We also have a camera to deal with, so we're not going to move too much in terms of that kind of distance. So now I'm going to start adding these other layers, right? So rather than kind of like stopping and explaining each one, I think we're just going to get into the drill, and I'm going to call out the particular type of defense that I'm doing, and I'll do a whole series of them together. So we're going to start with the hanging Aufstreichen. Then we're going to go to the short edge Aufstreichen coming upward. Then the long edge Aufstreichen coming upward. That's the three underneath. And then we're going to show the switch to the other side on top of the opponent's blade, where I do the Durchstreichen, then the Abnehmen, and then the Krumphau. Okay, so here we go. So hanger. Okay, then Aufstreichen with the short edge. And notice the more that I can get underneath, the better for this one. Yeah. Okay. And then long edge coming upward. Okay. And at some point, I can get to the other side on top. Durchstreichen. Abnehmen. So this one's actually really good to sort of circle further to his right. But really, I can move either direction on these. And then Krumphau. Again, most people move to the right when they're doing crump to the right, but you can actually step into the left, which you will discover if you practice this drill. So hopefully that gives people a sense of the dynamics that we're doing here. As you can see, we're able to move sideways either way. As I said, I can push him backwards. He can push me backwards. All of that stuff should happen pretty dynamically with the footwork. It goes back to a couple of the key things that I said the last time we were talking about fundamentals. Remember, when you cut from your right, step with your right, and vice versa. And for every cut, try to make sure there is a step, right? One step, one cut, as much as you can. So aside from that, really, really simple in terms of attack, defend, attack, defend. All it is at that point is to vary the different kinds of parries that you can do. And you can pick any, you can do all of them, just like I did, or you can pick a subset, maybe pick two and alternate between them so that you get good at being able to kind of switch. The nice thing about these sort of Frequens Motus drills is you can layer levels of complexity on top of one another, right? So right now, if you notice what Andre was doing, he was sticking as the coach to only doing a hanging parry for the defense. So a level up on this could be now as the coach, number one, he drives the student so that the student gets good at being able to manage that distance and manage those angles and switch to different parries depending on what side of the blade that they end up on. He can then also sort of upgrade his defense to not just being a hanging parry, but doing all of the different parries that the student is doing, right? You'll also notice that we were doing Zorn's very specifically from the right side. No reason we have to do it only on the right. In fact, we definitely should do it on the left as well, so that we are not super lopsided on doing stuff always on the right side. Do it on the right, do it on the left. Start by doing those in isolation. Then start doing alternating Zorn from the right, Zorn from the left, being able to alternate, and then eventually fully randomize, right? So either person can do either Zorn from either side and then do whatever parry makes sense for those kind of situations. And hopefully you can kind of see already, just by adding each one of these layers of complexity, this gets complex pretty quickly. But by doing this progressively, it's something that is achievable, as something that people can get better at a little bit at a time, and just kind of manage the progress that way. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully, again, the purpose of this was to go through and just remind people of options for sort of fundamentals for defenses and parries. And emphasizing how to connect that stuff with the footwork, making sure that we're doing it, generally attacking from the right or defending from the right and stepping with the right, vice versa. One defense, one step at the same time. And at the end of the day, putting all this stuff together in a way that is progressive. So I think that'll do it for this week. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one.